The oldest human being to ever live was Jean Calment. She was born in 1875 and died in 1997 at the age of 122. Everyone agrees this is the longest a human being has ever existed for. Well, not everyone. Some people say there are others much older than that. Some people say there are humans who have become immortal. Some people even say that they themselves are immortal. Do you believe them? Let's find out. My name is Danny Berg, and this is the top 10 people claimed to be immortal. Starting off at number 10 now, we have Alex Chiu. He is a 46-year-old man who claims to be immortal. How has he achieved that? Through the use of his immortality rings. He invented these small magnetic rings to be worn on people's fingers and toes to ensure that people's cells always heal properly and never die. Apparently, if the cells constantly regenerate, then the person never dies. He says he has modernized ancient Chinese medicine to make immortality accessible for everyone. You can actually buy these rings on Amazon right now, although I don't recommend it. They come in either black or white, although the black one costs more because it's stronger, apparently. Listen, I don't know how it all works. I'm just a mere mortal. Next up at number 9, we have Leonard Jones. He was an American politician born in 1797 who claimed to be immortal. More interestingly though, he claimed that anyone else could be immortal, you just needed the right amount of fasting and praying. He found a preacher that believed the same as him, and together they founded the Live Forever faith and tried to recruit people to found a city of immortals. While they were recruiting, the preacher died. Apparently, Leonard Jones was very much embarrassed when he had to speak at the funeral of his immortal partner. He then switched to politics and tried to run for US president many times, with his main policy being, his immortality. Sadly, he lost a lot of support when he died, age 71, and people say you can't trust politicians. Alright, at number 8 now, we have the Wandering Jewish Man. In medieval Europe, there was a story of a Jewish man who was there at the crucifixion of Jesus. As he saw Jesus carrying the cross, the man taunted him and told him to hurry up. Jesus then turned to look at him and cursed him to walk the earth until he returned in the second coming. His name was Ahasuerus, and countless people said they saw him wandering the earth hundreds of years later. Sometimes he was old, sometimes young, or even changed between the two. Others say it's simply a story of symbolism for the Jewish diaspora that have moved across the earth over the past millennia. What do you guys think? Moving on to number 7 now, we have the Immortal Monk. In 1927, the leader of a group of Russian Buddhist monks gathered his followers to announce his own death. His name was Dashi Dorzo Itigelov. He predicted that Stalin, Russia's leader, would persecute them, and he warned them to flee. Then he said he would return in 75 years, and in a deep meditation he passed away. Then many years later, his body was exhumed. The monks were amazed to find his body perfectly preserved. His limbs were flexible and the skin was elastic. In 2002, his body was put on display in the temple. It was 75 years on, and he had apparently returned. The Buddhists believe that he remains in a deep meditative state on the edge of life and death. Next up at number 6 now, we have Nicholas Flamel. You might recognize this guy's name from Harry Potter as the immortal wizard who created the Philosopher's Stone and was a good friend of Dumbledore's. Well, that fiction is based on the real Nicholas Flamel. He was a French scribe born in 1340, and records show that he died in 1418. However, hundreds of years later, in the 1700s, stories started to emerge that he was still alive. People said he was an alchemist who had discovered the real Philosopher's Stone and achieved immortality. There are people who believe Flamel faked his own death and went into hiding to protect this powerful artifact from getting into the wrong hands, and that he's still out there today. Coming at number 5 now, we have Merlin. Merlin was said to be the legendary wizard figure at the court of King Arthur. King Arthur himself is a figure that is steeped in both history and legend. It's often difficult to untwine the two. Merlin was said to be half human, half demon. His demonic side was where he inherited his incredible powers and abilities, but his human side put them to work for good. One of these inherited powers was immortality. Believers in his existence say that you can find sightings of Merlin throughout British history, many hundreds of years after his time with King Arthur. Others say this is just retellings of the same story. The only way to find the truth is to keep picking apart the fact from the fiction. At the number 4 spot now, we have the 3 Nephites. According to Mormons, Jesus visited what is now America after his resurrection. He chose 12 apostles, and when his time came to leave, 3 of them asked to stay behind forever to help humanity and watch over them. Jesus was said to have granted this, and more Mormons believe the three Nephites still walk among us today. As proof of this, they point to stories of kind strangers helping people throughout history before disappearing without a trace. Next up at number 3 now, we have Achilles. I'm sure you've all heard of the phrase Achilles' heel. This is the guy it comes from. He was said to be a legendary Greek hero of the Trojan War. The story goes that when he was a baby, he was dipped into the river Styx, the river that separates Earth from the underworld. This made him invulnerable to everything, even death itself, effectively making him immortal, except for one tiny thing. They held him in the river by his ankle, meaning that his ankle was totally vulnerable. He was killed by a poison arrow to that ankle in a battle, thus bringing his immortality to a swift end. Achilles' heel really was his Achilles' heel. Next up at number 2 now, we have the Count of Saint Germain. He was a European nobleman who was born in 1691 and was known for his works in science, the arts and philosophy. He was said to have attained immortality after drinking an elixir which he made through his mastery of alchemy. He travelled European courts where nobles were astonished to see he had not aged a single day in the 50 years since they last saw him. Many people said that he could live forever, even himself having confessed on at least one occasion to be 300 years old using the secrets of universal medicine. Records show he died in 1784 at the age of 93, but there have been countless stories of his appearance since then, even as recently as the 1970s. Alright, finally at number 1 now, we have Qin Shi Huang. He was a famous Chinese emperor whose dynasty lasted 400 years. Some of the most famous works under his rule include the Terracotta Army and parts of the Great Wall of China. He was said to be so loved by his people that they thought of him as an immortal. This was a prophecy Qin Shi was more than happy to fulfill, and he became obsessed with seeking immortality. On 2 occasions, he sent hundreds of people out into the world to find the legendary elixir of life. Both times were a failure. In the end, he died of mercury poisoning after he ate too many mercury pills given to him by his doctors to try and make him mortal. Oh dear. Well guys, I'm not sure how I feel about some of those stories, but you know, there's no smoke without fire. Also, if there are immortal people out there, maybe staying hidden is one of the reasons they've lived so long. Thanks, as always, for watching guys. I hope you have a lovely day wherever you are. My name is Danny Burke, and I'll see you all in the next video.